And we're off. Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to our live Q&A here in the Designer Forum. Once again, we're streaming exclusively to you guys in the forum here from HQ in Nelson, New Zealand. So last year we held a live Q&A session with Heather and Kat from the competition team, and it was a great success. And you told us that you enjoyed it, so we thought in the lead up to the first big 2020 entry deadlines, we would hold another one again. We know that this period is obviously always very intense with these kind of final details and everything kind of coming through. And there's a lot to think about in these last kind of few weeks. So today I'm joined once again by our head of competition, Kat Sproul, and also from our wardrobe operations and garment logistics manager, Leonie Chapman.
Morning.
Hi, thank you for joining us. If you have joined us for a Designers Day before, you might remember Leonie from the backstage tours. She'll often take designers around backstage and talk through kind of the show, what happens with garments, and it's always a great session. So yeah, hopefully a few of you remember Leonie from that.
So too.
So thank you to everyone who has sent questions through in advance. We're going to do our best to kind of get through as much as we can today. But remember, this is a live Q&A, so if you have any questions whilst we're talking, simply post on this video now. I'll keep my eye on it and we'll try and get through as much as we can. So thank you both for joining us again, and we will get on with our first questions. So obviously something that we have heard a lot about, especially in very recent times, is coronavirus, how that is affecting the competition, if it's affecting the competition, will this have any impact on deadlines? We've also heard people who have set up kind of professional photography things in advance of the pre-selection deadline. How is this affecting us here at WOW, and what do the designers from around the world need to know?
The good news I think at the moment is it's certainly not affecting us in terms of planning for the competition for this year. We are very much full steam ahead here at WOW, and our hope is, I think everyone around the world, is that things are soon going to start to settle and improve, and I think, given the challenges that everyone's facing and unknown times, I think it's more important than ever that people have an outlet and something else to focus on, and so creativity is a fantastic thing to have focus on at this time. So we are doing everything we can just to keep things trucking along and keep planning going as per usual. We're obviously really conscious of this disruption that designers in different parts of the world will be feeling. We have had emails and questions from designers over the past couple of weeks in particular. There's no change to deadlines at the moment. We are continuing on with the dates that have already been put out there on the website and publicised. But we are obviously watching the situation really closely, and every day just looking at what's happening. We're in particular looking at what's happening with freighting around the world and what the logistics of that will be. We're in touch with Main Freight on a daily basis to see how things are tracking for them. At the moment, in terms of particularly ocean freight, there seems to be little disruption on that front, and hopefully that will remain the case. But as I say, we're just looking at it day by day, but our hope is that things will soon start to settle.
And obviously if anything does, especially with freighting, we will absolutely let you know and update you through various channels.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So I think you can expect to know more ongoing messages from us just over the coming weeks as we see how things go. We have had a couple of queries from designers around planning for obviously getting the step 1, step 2 finished, particularly for the international designers who have to do step 2 pre-selection by the 30th of March. And for some of you that have planned professional photo shoots and have models coming in, photographers that you're working with, we understand that is maybe not going to be able to carry on as planned, and we absolutely get that. There will definitely be some leeway around that. The judges will understand that things are unpredictable, and everyone's just doing the best that they can at the moment to finish their entries. That means if this year you need to do photography in your lounge, if you need to take photos on your phone, if you have flatmates and family members who are your models instead of the models that maybe you plan to use, that's absolutely understandable, and that is not going to work against you in any way. So we just want to make that really, really clear and give some reassurance around that we understand it's not business as usual out there for everyone, and the judges will be taking that into account. So, but don't let that stop you. I think WOW was built on the spirit of making things work and finding solutions to things, and so we really encourage everyone to think outside the square a little bit on that, and know that there'll be a high level of understanding at this end about what people are doing to get entries finished and the information read to us.
I think just try and get your plain background, whether you're hanging a sheet on a wall or you've got a plain wall. Just stick to those things as well when you're doing the photos. And maybe if your model is your sister, your friend, or whatever the case may be, if they're a little bit shorter or a little bit too tall, or something's different than what you'd made or designed your garment for, then make a note in your instructions. I would prefer my model to be this height, or this model was a little bit shorter than I intended. Because we do look at your photo and we're guided by that when we're assigning a model. So just make those notes in your instructions and we can absolutely make it work.
Yeah, that's so really from both sides, from a competition and a judging perspective and from a wardrobe perspective, supply as much as you can, do as much as you can. You do need to upload a minimum of 4 photos, but you can upload up to 10. So if this means taking several different angles or providing more detail or whatever it is, use what you can, send us whatever you can, because both teams are obviously going to really appreciate that. And of course, remember that you can supply video as well. So if you can, get a video of kind of even just part of your garment, whatever you can do, use whatever you can to send us as much as you can in this situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. Perfect. So on that, so finishing garments. It's probably worth saying as well, we didn't actually say at the beginning, that the step 1 deadline intention to enter is Monday the 30th of March, and that is also the deadline for international pre-selection. So if you are an international entrant, whether you're a first-time entrant or a returning entrant, all international entrants need to have pre-selection done, which is step 2, by that same Monday. New Zealand entrants, you just need to complete step 1 by Monday the 30th of March. Probably worth reiterating that. So on those that are going to be finishing their garment in the next couple of weeks, one of these questions, what are the main things I should be thinking about as I finish my garment? So what do they need to be thinking about kind of before they take those photos, before they start thinking about shipping it or kind of submitting their entry?
I'm doing this one.
Let you only take that one.
I think that before you put your garment into your box, before you pack it into the box, have you taken that last breath, that last look at your garment? Have you attached all of your labels? Because they are so incredibly important for us to get a good understanding that it's right front, that this is centre back, that this component is the left leg, etc. They're very important. So have you done those? Have you had your headpiece on? Have you checked out for that health and safety, for your visibility, for your comfort? Just those last minute things that when you've been flat out making your garment, you haven't quite had enough time to just do that final checking. If you can do that, that would be amazing before that garment goes into your box. But when you're packing your garment in your box, maybe also have a look at your box. How sound is it? How much movement has that garment got within the box? Have I got enough padding in there? Is my garment safe in that box? So they'd be the last things, but also your instructions. You've spent the last 6 months, 6 weeks, 2 years living and breathing your garment, and you understand it so well. But will the next person after that, will they all be able to understand everything that you've created and how it's to be dressed? So take that time, read through your instructions and rewrite if need be, because there'll be a lot of people looking and reading those instructions. So just make sure they're very clear. Add photos to your dressing instructions if that helps. But just those last minutes, there's a guide within the entry process, a tick box, but just look through yourself and know that if you handed that garment to your auntie, would she be able to understand it as well? Just someone else. Does it make sense to someone else?
Yeah. And you touched upon something there that actually earlier this year we sat down with Tanya and Julie in the wardrobe team as well, and they said, the last thing you should do is definitely try on as much as you can. check for visibility, check for health and safety. Have you put the headpiece on? Have you put the shoes on? Wear your garment as much as you can, so you know what you're handing over.
Yeah, and I'd say step back a little bit, like use your critical eye, and just look at it in terms of too many components, something missing that might just give it that edge. So that's your final chance just to have that, just to step back and have that look at it and go, should it, we often say, sometimes less is more, and that can be really true, but I think just taking that moment just to test that with yourself is a really good thing to do.
Nice.
Something to think about that we touched on with the health and safety, we're saying put on your headpiece, shoes, etc., all components. But something to be very aware of, that when you're in your home, when you're under your normal lighting and you put that headpiece on, it's fine. And we also find that for the judging process, it may be fine, but you've also got to put that into a show environment, whether there is smoke, whether there is certain lighting. So it's layer upon layer that gives it that amazing show atmosphere, but it also creates little things in there that can be challenges to something that is difficult to see out of. So really think about that. Sometimes a garment that has many pieces around the eyes, it might be diamantes, that can create a kaleidoscope when that model is looking out, which can become very dangerous. Having a sheer piece of fabric over the eyes might be okay in your own lounge, but actually when you're under stage lighting, that could make someone quite blind. So try, if you can, different lighting as well. But think about those components later on for those that show step.
So takeaways in the next 2 weeks are really obviously finalise the garment completely. It needs to be finished inside and out for pre-selection. Think about labelling your components, your dressing instructions in detail, everything that's going to have to be thought through to get your garment over here if required, but also try and put your judge's hat on and step back and have a look at it and see how you're feeling about it from a more critical eye. Do you think they're probably the top 3 takeaways?
Yeah, I think so.
Nice. So a few of you have also asked about shoes in your garment. So one of the questions we've got, do I need to make customized shoes to go with my garment, or can I buy stock shoes?
It's interesting, that's something, we've had a lot of questions about that this year, and I think it's really up to you. It depends what you've visualised in terms of your design concept. Some designers want to make custom shoes. They have a particular vision for the overall look, and so they'll create shoes that will go with that. For other designers, a pair of simple stock shoes is all they really want, and what they want is the rest of the garment to be, what sort of dominates. And so I think it's a personal choice.
But both are accepted in the competition.
Both are absolutely accepted, and equally we've also been asked, do I have to have footwear? No, you don't have to have footwear. If again, from a design perspective, it's important to you that the model is barefoot, then that's a choice that you can make. And so again, as long as we have that information, it's clear to us that that's your intention. That's certainly an option. You might have other things to say about footwear, Leonie.
Yeah, I think something to remember is if a component is seen, it needs to be supplied. So often we get, do I need to supply shoes for that reason? Because it might be a different size model that you fit, it might not fit my shoes. It's our job to find a model to fit everything that you supply, to get the best model for your garment. So yes, please, if a shoe is a very important component in your garment, then please absolutely supply that. And there are the odd times where we cannot fit the shoes, but that's up to us. And we will go back to you and go, I've got this amazing model, perfect in every way for your garment, but unfortunately she doesn't fit the shoes. And we'll just discuss how we can work our way around that at that time, if it comes about.
Great. So yes, anything that you want to see as part of your garment, you do need to supply.
Yes.
But not having shoes or buying stock shoes is definitely an option.
Absolutely.
Great. So a couple of questions on sponsored freighting and main freight here. I'm from Adelaide in Australia and would like to use the main freight sponsored freighting option, but I'm not sure how or if this option is available to me. Can you please advise?
So yes, you definitely can use the main freight sponsored freighting, and they they're incredibly generous and have looked at all possible scenarios to make it as accessible as possible for designers. So if you're in Adelaide, there isn't a depot in Adelaide that is a sort of direct sponsored freighting depot, but what you can do is you can access a 25% discount to ship to the nearest depot in Australia that offers the main freight sponsored freighting. Again, just looking at bringing the costs down for you and making that a bit more manageable. There's a lot of information on our website about freighting options, and it will step it through for you whether you're an international designer or a New Zealand designer. So it would encourage you to go through and have a look at that to understand what your options are and also what the deadlines are around those depot drop-offs. But the 25% discount in terms of getting garments to a nearest depot, that is available in all the territories around the world. And we really appreciate that Mainfreight offer that to our designers. We know that that's obviously a real investment that you will make in shipping your garments out to New Zealand. So I encourage you to take that up as much as you can.
And if you do have any further questions or kind of very specific questions about freighting, you can always get in touch with Kate Ruffle on the competition team as well, who's always happy to help. Great. Another question on freighting. My garment incorporates LED lights, but I'm not sure if I can or if I should be sending batteries. What should I do?
I think it's important to, first of all, contact your freighting provider because you might not be using Mainfreight, and if you are, go directly to either their website or contact them. And if you're using another provider, then also do the same because different companies have different rules, first and foremost.
Some companies might not allow you to send batteries with them.
Yeah, it's very slim chance that batteries can be sent internationally at all. So just check that out first. And if you don't happen to be able to send them because of whatever reason for freighting, then a full explanation of the batteries that your garment requires.
Okay, so in your paperwork, in your dressing instructions, if you're not able to send the batteries, let us know exactly what batteries are required for your garment.
Yes.
And does that apply to other electronic components?
You should, yes. If it's got, I think always talk to provider.
Yeah.
But if there is, it's only when it's a battery type. And if it's electrical component, that will only be for charging, I would presume. But if in doubt, always talk to the freighting company.
Yeah. And again, get in touch with Kate Ruffle. She'll also be able to help.
And just put full explanation, full description of everything that you have not sent.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason.
Yeah. Great. So put everything in paper to us. Let us know exactly what's going on. Yeah. Cool. Here's another one from a first-time international entrant, which is exciting. So I'm entering for the first time. What happens after the 30th of March deadline? So that's, again, for internationals, that's the step 1 deadline and the step 2 pre-selection deadline.
Okay. So the first thing that will happen is all the information that you sent us in terms of the photos and videos of your entries will all be assessed by the judges. We usually spend a couple of days working through assessments around those, and then on the 3rd of April we do a pretty quick turnaround because we're aware that you also then need time to get garments packed and ready for shipment. But on the 3rd of April we will send out results, and you will know at that point whether or not you've been invited to progress through to the next stage and actually send your garment to New Zealand. So we won't keep you waiting for too long after that deadline. And that's basically that fortnight or so after the 30th of March is really where you need to be prepared, I guess, for action stations. If you get the email that says you've been pre-selected, that's when you'll need to move on to finishing up packing up your garment and finishing up all the paperwork and getting it on its way to New Zealand.
So to Leonie's point earlier, it's even more important to have those components labelled, to have your dressing instructions in progress and everything else. Is there anything else you'd advise kind of having done by the 30th of March, even if it's not due? Perhaps thinking about containers to put your garment in, packaging, padding,
how you're going to pack it.
Yeah, for sure. Just do as much as you can in advance to make sure you can hit the ground running.
Yeah.
Great. And it's worth saying as well that if you are arranging shipment of your garment, whatever way you decide to send it, it does need to be in Nelson by 5 p.m. on Tuesday the 16th of June this year. Again, all our deadlines are online on the website, but Tuesday the 16th of June is the final date to have garments in Nelson. So here's something we keep touching upon. How detailed do I need to be in my dressing instructions?
As detailed as possible. Yes, please.
Everything.
Yeah, we come across it often. Very limited instructions, which is fine, but it takes a lot of time for someone who's never seen that garment to work out how it should be dressed. Because part of the cataloguing process here in Wardrobe is we have a team of 9 people who open each box individually. They read through your instructions, they get an understanding of your garment. If you have a headpiece, they try it on. If you have shoes, they're trying that on. And if there's something that they need to construct, then they do that. They might spend between 2 hours to 2 days on each individual garment. And if there are no dressing instructions, they're actually making dressing instructions. So your explanation is going to be better. So the more detail you can give, the better. So we use everything that you send, we will use, and sometimes we add to that.
And you said earlier that sometimes you get photos included in dressing instructions.
Yes.
Is that something that you'd recommend doing as well?
It's really handy. When a garment becomes part of our collection, we do that with ours because a photo is so much clearer and you can get to understand a garment quicker with a photo, especially if you're a person that likes visuals. So yes, definitely. If you don't, that's absolutely fine because sometimes it's not required, but photos are always good.
Great. So the more detail you can provide, the better.
With a headpiece, we find it really important to have a photo because sometimes in a full body shot you're not seeing that detail. So please feel free, any component that's quite tricky, take a photo of that part alone, headpieces especially. And it might seem strange that we want a front side, back side, but that helps us get a full 360 visual of your garment and understand, so that sits over the right hip, not under, or oh gosh, that goes on the left leg, not the right leg. So without those details and instructions, it makes it harder for us, and your photos just make everything so much easier. And that's another
because
reason.
ultimately you're trying to create.
We're trying to
intention.
replicate exactly what you do.
Want.
So if you've sent your garment on your model and the dress sits halfway down your shins and the arm piece is halfway up the arm, whatever it is that you've done in your photo, we are trying to replicate that.
Exactly that.
So I'll touch on that bit because I do get asked this sometimes. How you dress your model in your garment, or the model type, the model height that you use, is what we go off to try and replicate exactly what you've done. It's not a problem if your model is a little bit too short, a little bit too tall, of course, but if you let us know, ideally my model would have been 176 centimetres tall, or ideally my model would have been this. Just let us know and then we'll work our magic and try and get the best fit possible.
Yeah. So if in the photo the garment's sitting halfway down the shins, you could say a note that says, actually, I'd rather it sitting closer to the knee, or closer to the ground, and advising us that way.
100%.
Nice. We've just had a question come through here from Tatiana. Hi. Do I supply instructions for my pieces as a hard copy in the box or as an online document? Which is a great question about the entry process.
As a hard copy. When it comes with your garment, a hard copy, please. Yes. You'll get, as part of the entry process, there is a guide on what to do, so a template.
And that's online.
And that's online, yes. But you do put everything in the box as a hard copy.
Yeah. So you'll get the template online, and I believe you need to check that you have included dressing instructions as part of your...
It won't let you go forward.
So there'll be a tick box that says that I have included them, but you need to print them off and include them in the box when you're sending your garment. And a follow-up question: do I have to supply left and right side if in my case they are identical? So is that photography, I think? I'd like to supply an extra close-up pic with details instead.
So I'll say yes, please, left and right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the details, yes, please.
Yeah. So as we kind of said earlier, you have to supply a minimum of 4 photos, and that is front, back, side and side, both left and right, even if they're identical. They're the minimum you have to send, but you can supply up to 10 images, and that can absolutely include detailed shots if you want.
Yes.
Yeah.
And on those dressing instructions, sometimes you're still trying to print those out. You might have handwritten them and they're not ready to go in the box. You need to make your freight and deadline. So get your box away, you can always send those instructions separately and just send them attention to Kate Raffle and wardrobe.
Great. So ideally you do include them in the box with your garment, but if the dressing instructions aren't ready and you need to get your garment freighted, you can absolutely send the dressing instructions afterwards. And I guess we'd rather you added the detail and finished them and sent them rather than rushing them to get
and
them
make
through.
your freighting deadline, which is more important.
Yeah. Cool, that's good. So we've also had another question come through here. How important is the story behind your costume compared to the costume itself? So that's a really great question, especially in the lead up to international pre-selection. So if we look just at that first judging stage, pre-selection, from a judging perspective, what's more important, the garment itself or the story behind? Do the judges at this stage read the story, or are they just looking at photos?
No, the judges are absolutely reading the story. That's something that Heather and I in the judging room will always spend a lot of time talking to the judges about the story and the inspiration behind each garment. I mean, obviously, first and foremost, they're going to look at visually what's in front of them and what is the work like. But I would say that the story greatly enhances that and can impact a lot on their impression of your entry, and I think it can add a lot. It's just another layer, really, to the work, and it's amazing sometimes when you talk through the stories and inspiration with the judges, and you can almost sort of see that moment where they just like, oh, that's incredible, that has just added a whole other level for them in terms of how they view that work. So I think the story is really, really important. The name of your garment, again, that's a great way to get the judges' attention. So I think all of that absolutely adds to it. I think absolutely at the core of it is the work and the quality of the design and the concept and all of that, no question. But the story and the name and everything you put around that, I think, can also make a huge difference.
And from a wardrobe perspective, which you won't probably be thinking about this, but later on when your garment is a finalist and it gets into the show, that story that you create and you make around your beautiful piece, when I've assigned a model to your garment, part of the process, other than the choreographer, the model actually reads every single story. They know your garment inside and out. And the difference in a model who has taken on board that story, it's incredible. You know, anyone can put on a beautiful garment and look beautiful. But that time that they've read it and it just resonates with them, and you can see it in them. Suddenly they come to life in their mana. It's just beautiful. They take it on board, and there's it's goosebumps. It really, really is from a wardrobe perspective. So very important, that story further down the track for me.
And it does also give the choreographer as well, doesn't it? The inspirations.
Incredibly.
So it will.
Yeah. They read all of the information when they're trying to create movement for your garment and work it into the show. But as many layers that your story just is so important.
Absolutely. So just kind of a quick one on that. Especially for some of our new entrants, what do we mean in the difference between the garment inspiration and the garment story? Because we kind of use those two words a lot, and they're actually two things that we want designers to provide as part of their online entry process. So do we want to just kind of touch upon what we mean by those two things?
Yeah, sure. So the inspiration really is just giving us a little bit about the concept for the work. Where did it come from? What sparked that creative idea for you? And it may, for some people it's only a line, for other people it's a paragraph, and you know that's up to you as to how much you want to say about the inspiration. The story is where you can go a bit more in depth. That's where we'd really love to hear the journey that you've been on with the work. What's the background to it? What was your creative process? Basically anything that you'd like to tell us in more detail about, and that builds for us a great picture in terms of the garment's life and journey, and it's content that can become really, really valuable and really interesting as the garment carries on through its journey and goes through the show and then potentially into exhibition in the future. And so it also helps us build a picture of the work of our designers and all the amazing things that you guys are doing out there, and it allows us to share that with the world.
Yeah.
So we'd love any and all information that you want to share with us around work.
Yeah, so there's no strict structure or no kind of set things that we're looking for you to say here. Sometimes we get the amount of material that's gone in, however many meters has been used in this. Sometimes it's quite anecdotal about how you created the garment, if there was something kind of funny or difficult that you had to overcome, any challenges. But equally, we also see further inspirations, where you got the idea from, how that came about, why you decided to enter WOW this year. It's really your chance to tell your story about how you've come from not having a garment to creating this piece. Yeah,
and some of the stories we get coming through are incredibly moving and quite emotional. Some of the stories that we get coming through are hilarious, and we'll have some fits of laughter as we read about some of the funny things that have happened for you all as you've gone through that process. So again, it's bringing the human side to the work, isn't it? So,
and again, sometimes those material stories, especially however many X, Y, or Zs you've used, can then be brought through to the judging story as well, can't it? You say, it's listed as whatever it is here, but actually, did you know it's not just one or two? It's 70,000, or So all those kind of details and stories that you want us to know, that's a really good place to put that in.
Yeah.
So a question here from Jill. Hi, Jill. Are there shorter models available? So that actually ties into a question that we were sent. A couple of questions really. We've got a question: how many models are in the show? But also, how do you select who wears my garment? Which is something you've touched upon a little bit already. But how do we go about finding models for these pieces?
So in May in Wellington, we hold a open audition, so anyone can come along. The only restriction we ask for is that the model is over 16 years of age, and if they're a female, they're over 170 centimetres, and if a male, over 178. And the reason we come about that height and that age, the age is about maturity, because we do rehearse 6 days a week. We are, this is a massive show, it's a massive production. There's a lot of rehearsals, so we require that maturity. Have we taken models that are younger? Yes, we have. But that takes a conversation with the parent or the guardian, because it requires a lot of support. They've got to be able to get to these rehearsals and be collected, and they're juggling schoolwork, so that deals with the age side of things. And as for the height, we need a base in our competition to give you a guide. So we do the 170 centimetres. I'm not quite sure if the question is, what is the height you're asking of? If you let us know that, I can answer that. But generally it is 170. But if a garment came in and it required someone of 165, we've got amazing dancers within our team that are a bit shorter than our models. So yes, it's up to us to find the model to fit your garment. So anything's possible. What was the other one that you...
How many models?
How many models? So we have approximately 30 female models every year and about 6 male models. It all comes down to what garments get selected into the show at the end of the day, but that's about an average. So backtracking to the audition, at that audition we select the best models that attend, and that goes on a lot of things. So Malia Johnson will be in attendance, and myself. And so we are looking for someone who's incredibly confident, who with great movement skills. They don't need to have a dance background or a model background, that's not important. Their confidence in front of us will give us everything that we need. We select the best at that audition. We could select 30, we could select 100. It's about being the best. The second audition is held the weekend after the first judging. So at that stage we know what garments have been selected to go into the show, so then we know exactly what models we need. And that creates another question. So you've made your garment, you've sent it in, and there's no sizes. Very, very, very seldom do we get measurements or a size of what model is required to fit that garment. So with that comes me walking down the aisles of all the garments hanging up and going, I can see on this person it needs this height. So it's a lot of guesswork actually, but I've got pretty good over it over the last few years. And following on from Heather Palmer, she's taught me well. So I've got a good eye to know what's going to do your garment the absolute best in front of the judges. But any help you can give, any guidance is much appreciated. And once it's been on a model, if we put it on someone and it looks not quite right, we'll change it into one of our other models. so that when it goes into that judging room, it's on the best possible person.
And we are using the word model here, but actually, we tend to call them performers, don't we?
Yes.
Because, as you say, there's no modelling background or experience required. It's that confidence, and they might have never gone on a stage before, but it's open and we'll take whoever is.
Absolutely, it's about bringing your garment to life.
Yeah.
It's about interpreting your inspirations, your stories, and working in with the choreographers what they want and how they want to bring your garment to life on stage.
Cool. So a few more questions have come in now. From Tatiana, do I need to supply work in progress photos outside of the 10 of the final piece? So for the judging, you don't need to supply work in progress photos. The judges need to see final completed garments. But actually we do recommend and encourage designers to keep a kind of archive of their work in progress, because we never know what might be useful down the line. It might be something that we're interested in seeing. It might be something that we share on our channels. It might be a story that we tell down the line. So definitely keep an archive of all your work as you're going, because it's always good to have and look back on.
Absolutely, yeah.
But you don't need to supply it as part of the entry process. Just hold on to it yourself for now. Okay, one from Jane. Hi, Jane. Hi, my piece this year could potentially be in 3 of the categories: open, avant-garde, or architecture. How do I know which category to enter it in? Could that affect whether it is accepted or not if it doesn't fit that category? Or should I just enter it into open to be safe? So that's a really good question about choosing one of the 6 sections to enter your garment into. So, Karen,
it's a really good question, because we get asked this quite a lot. The short answer is that you enter it into the section that you think best fits the work. If the judges feel that it's better suited to a different section, at point of pre-selection, you'll be contacted about that, and we'll let you know that the judges are recommending that it move to a different section. It will still be your choice as to whether it goes there. We never enforce that. It's very much, it's your entry, it's your decision ultimately, but we will often go back to designers and say, the judges, having, assessed your entry, believe that it's a better fit with avant-garde, and our recommendation is that, that's the section that it sits in. And so we will go through that process. But if at step 1 and step 2 for internationals, you've put it into a particular section and the judges suggest it gets moved, that has no impact on how your entry is viewed, how it's assessed. So it definitely doesn't work against you in any way. And it's very much a conversation that we would have with you if that comes up. So I would say go with whatever feels right for you at the moment, and then we'll let you know if we're recommending that it sits better in a different section for some reason.
Yeah, that sounds good. So the sections are created to inspire and to challenge and to create these kind of designed worlds. They're not created to be held against anyone for competition reasons. They're there for your fun and for your inspiration, really, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Great, I hope that helps. So one from Camille. My work will be made from layers of paper. It will be quite delicate. If it's selected, do I need to supply repair tools? That's a great question. So I know, that was easy. So we know repair kits are a big part of the entry process. Do we want to speak a bit to what people need to think about providing, how to provide it, again, details?
I think the number one thing to remember is this is a very creative, performance-orientated show. They're not walking down a straight catwalk. So they want to, our creative team want to bring your garment to life. With that comes movement. As part of your entry process, you're asked for comments on choreography if you have anything specific. So if you feel your garment is too delicate for certain movement, make sure that you say that there. That's a great help. But it is going to be moved in because it's going to be rehearsed in. Your garment is going to be worn, as we mentioned, like up to 30 times. We rehearse for 6 weeks. Your garment is worn at every rehearsal, which is once or twice a week. It is fitted for the first judging process. It is worn at judging. There may be a callback. It may be worn again. And that one weekend, there's probably 3 wearings. Then our garments go over to Wellington. Then you've got a fitting process for your show model. It could be worn twice there. We haven't even started rehearsals and we're already up to 5. So you need to be aware of this. Are there any friction points, any parts that would possibly need replacing or would be more likely to be damaged with wear and tear? So think about that. If you come up with some parts that need possible replacement, then supply them. That would be great. Anything that your garment requires to be mended, yes, please supply it. And if for some reason, again, because of freighting restrictions, because of glues being something that you cannot freight, then let us know what you use. If there's something specific, some technique you use, let us know. Very, very helpful. But yes, please, for a repair kit.
So does every designer have to supply a repair kit with their garment?
No. But yes, please. Nice. And sometimes you can't. It may be a type of material that you can't. But if you can, yes, please.
And again, that comes back to, if as much as possible, either whether it's yourself wearing the garment or a friend, flatmate, family member, whoever, wearing the garment and having that conversation, you know, can you move, how do you move, how does that affect the garment?
Yes.
Write all those details down, think about repair kits if needed. Just keep trying.
And that's the same with spare parts. You think if you've got pantyhose with your garment, spare parts, yes, very, very important. And if for some reason you don't send them or you can't, let us know where you got them from, what exact colour they are, because one pair of pantyhose won't see us through all of that. It just won't. So spare, please, if you can.
Great, I hope that helps, Camille. And then one final question we received in advance. How do you store the garments backstage during the show?
Okay, so we have specially designed racks that we will sometimes freight your garment in. We ship out of Nelson about 7 20-foot containers for all the entries that make it into the show. So your garment, if it's got specific travelling instructions, like it may need to go in your purpose-built crate, your box, it will travel in your box. 80% of the garments will travel in our purpose-built racks over to Wellington, and that's where they stay. But sometimes if you supplied a torso or a mannequin, we might sit your garment on that backstage. So many varied places and means of storing them, but generally in the rack. So what we do is we lay your components out for ease of dressing. We have a sign right below that component, left cuff, right shoe, left shoe, etc. So it's all laid out, so it's very easy for the dresser to be able to dress your model. But if there's very fragile components, then it's left in its box, but generally in the rack.
Perfect. Well, that's all the questions we have received. Is there anything else you want to touch on in the lead up to the 30th of March?
For me, I think I'll just say we're only an email or phone call away. So if there's anything you want to ask Wardrobe, either email myself, Leonie, at worldofwearableart.com, or Kate, and of course for Kat here as well. But please, no question is silly. Please don't ever think that. Just email and ask, and we're just only too happy to help.
Yeah, I think I would just echo that. I think especially, you know, just given the current situation around the world and things feeling unpredictable and people feeling a bit unsure, it's just, you know, get in touch, let us know if there's any concerns or things that you're just feeling unsure about. We'll come back to you as quickly as we possibly can. And as I say, we're, you know, like everyone, we're keeping an eye on this on a daily basis, and we'll be as responsive as we can and keep lots of information coming out to you all. And yeah, no question is a silly question, and we're really happy to answer anything. We're very much here to help.
Yeah, and use the forum as well. You know, that's why it's there. And we love seeing how you guys support each other, and sometimes you guys can help each other and answer each other's questions as well. So especially in these last 2 weeks, reach out to us, to each other. Use the resources that we've provided. The website has heaps of details. We've done blog posts on the entry process, on garment photography, on videography. If you can't find anything, let us know and we'll find it for you. We've done 2 other Q&As. We did one with, as I mentioned, Tanya and Julia in the wardrobe team, and obviously last year we spoke with Heather and Kat as well on kind of other aspects of entering the competition. So use all the resources you can, get in touch with us, reach out to each other. Oh, is that final question. Okay. Hi, Kristen. Just in time. First time entrant and international, for fun about how many submissions do you get a year and how many become finalists?
Oh.
How often do we hear that? It's Kat's favourite question.
We know this is a question that everyone wants an answer to. So generally, we receive probably around 500 or so entries every year.
At what stage?
At
the first stage.
In terms of first stage, in terms of entries that will come through to the judges for pre-selection, it's around. I mean, it's a bit of a range, but it's 500 to 600 a year. And then at that point, in terms of going through pre-selection and entries which will be invited to then be sent to New Zealand, it's usually about half of that will actually reach that next stage. So, you know, we've received a lot of entries from, you know, now more than 40 countries around the world every year, which is incredibly exciting for us. And I think, you know, we feel really honoured that, you know, you guys all trust us with your work and allow us to showcase it in the way that we do. And so that's a real gift. And every year we think we've probably just seen you know, the most surprising thing, or, you know, the most unexpected thing, or, you know, the way that you just keep on pushing those boundaries and coming up with a new idea, it just blows us away, honestly. And we never fail to be surprised. So, yeah.
After 31 years, I thought I'd seen it all, but no way. You just keep surprising us every year.
I think on that, as a first-time entrant, it is also important to note that there is no minimum or maximum number of garments in the competition. We're not looking to fill a certain quota, and if you know, and if there's hundreds and hundreds, we will. Anything that becomes a finalist is a finalist. We're not looking at numbers at all. So it changes every year. What Kat has said is very general, and this is also why we don't have a hard and fast answer for you, because it changes every year with the number of entrants and the number of finalists. But it's certainly not capped, and there's not a minimum that we're looking for either. Cool. Well, thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and thank you so much for your questions. If you do have further questions, if you weren't able to join us live, this video will stay in the forum. I hope. So do just leave questions on the video. I'll be watching it. I'll obviously Kat will be watching it. Email everybody if you've got questions, and keep working towards the 30th of March. So New Zealand entrants, you need to complete step 1, which is just your intention to enter by Monday the 30th of March, whether you're a first-time entrant or a returning entrant. And internationals also have that step 2 pre-selection deadline as well. So best of luck. We can't wait to see what you do this year. And yeah.
Go well, everyone.
And hope to see you in Wellington.